Okay, so I'm going to get this done, wrapped up really quickly. Hello everybody, welcome to Prospects eRacing League Tier 2. We are on Season 10, Round 1 here at Catalonia. I've got to get this over and done with quickly because at the start, we're going to have a minute silence in the pit lane. Unfortunately, one of our, Shane unfortunately lost one of his friends, and we're going to take a minute silence to respect his loss and honour him. So we will be taking that minute silence in the pit lane, and everybody will be wearing green helmets. I do hope everybody is well and excited for today, but indeed first we must take this minute silence.
Back in 1994, Michael Schumacher managed to finish in second place, despite driving over half the race with only fifth gear. The Benetton B194 Schumacher was driving went on to allow him to win the World Drivers' Championship later that year. Grand Prix has been held in Spain since 1913, although officially the first F1 GP was held here in 1951 and has been a staple of the calendar almost every year since it was first hosted. Lella Lombardi is the only woman to have scored a top 6 finish in an F1 World Championship race, and she did it here in the 1975 Spanish GP. From 2007 to 2016, the Spanish GP was won by a different driver every year. Winners include modern legends such as Kimi Räikkönen, Jenson Button and Sebastian Vettel. 7 of the 10 winners were or would go on to be world champions.
And there's our minute silence over. A big thank you for everybody who obeyed that silence, but now we can get on with the racing. Unfortunately, one driver did get on the track just a little bit too early. We then wait for the rest of them to come out onto the track and begin their flying laps. So a couple of drivers already on the medium compound tyres. Let me just check what is going on. So now we'll start to see more drivers out on the track. After that instant, all drivers will be wearing green. They'll be trying to put on green helmets if they have, also in solidarity. Uh-oh, maybe I've jumped the gun here as well. I thought it was only a minute. So then, I believe it was Stray Dog on a flying lap. Sorry, got a little bit distracted there, but the Ferrari driver is on a flying lap at the moment and in the middle part of the lap. 14 corners around the Spanish Grand Prix circuit. A very interesting circuit. And now we have the high speed turn 13 instead of a chicane there, so we do only have 14 corners. I think it was 16 we used to have. An extra 2 for that chicane, but now that is gone, and here comes Stray Dog Racing through that high speed section of the circuit. He takes a big lift coming through that part of the track, and this is not going to be his greatest lap ever, a 13.5. He knows, and we know, there is more in that lap as well. The Alfa Romeo of Reggie looks to be the next driver to cross the line. I think actually it could be Squid. In fact it is. It's going to be Squid in the Alpha Tauri who's going to be the next to cross the finishing line and finish a flying lap around the Catalunya circuit. He is just currently through turn 12 at the moment, incredibly fast in this year's game, into turn 7, drops it down into 6th gear just to make sure he doesn't get too much understeer. 13.4, only a tenth quicker on the soft compound of tyres, so plenty of work to do, and Reggie sets an 11.8, a good lap time from him. That's Kai just beginning a lap. One of the McLarens, that's Freddie, on the soft tyres, an 18.8. So he was having a bit of a ramp-up lap then. Looking across, I think that's Patty Pat just beginning a flying lap. Indeed it is. A lot of drivers just beginning their flying laps then. Nobody... Oh, Jonesy Blythe has actually had a bit of a spin, or he's had a poor exit or something along those lines, as he is currently not on a flying lap. F1 Nerd just about to begin a flying lap. A couple of drivers just about to pull into the pit lane. I think Timos actually is going to be finishing a flying lap. Jonesy goes up into P2 just behind his teammate, whereas Timos goes just under 2/10 slower and into P2. The Ferrari is very quick. Last time around, one of the Alpha Tauros, I believe that's Kieran. Yeah, that's Kieran just beginning a flying lap, whereas his teammate Squid is just going to be pulling into the pit lane. Next to cross the line is going to be, I believe, Kai. Or he is just about to start a flying lap. I don't think he was particularly happy with his first effort and backed out of it then. Freddie Razzle will be behind him to actually set a flying lap. He's going to get a nice slipstream, and he goes up to P3 with a 12.0 as well. Just a couple hundredths behind as Patty Pat goes up to P5. Shane in P7. Patty Pat dropped by Matty D in the Alpine, who moved up to P4. A good lap from him. Next driver to cross the line looks like it's going to be Aston Martin's David Bauer. Next to cross the line in this short qualifying session, he goes up into P7. Reese, his teammate, moved up into P2. Oliver on the medium tyres for this first lap moves up into P10. We've just got Kieran and Pololski. Pololski on an out lap at the moment, and Stray Dog Racing already out again then. He's certainly not hanging about with his tyre usage, as then Kieran comes to the line, goes up into P6 in the AlphaTauri. A good lap from him as we sit with Pololski. A lot of drivers still left out on the track at the moment then. Kai is definitely looking to improve. A 14.0 is certainly not representative of his pace. As we saw last time out in the Imola pre-season, he was incredibly fast across this race stint, and his qualifying puts him up into P6 at the moment. He did not solidify himself as a good qualifier last time out, but that could change from track to track. Pololski then, so I'm just going to quickly adjust the volume whilst I got a chance to. As Pololski then is currently in turn 7 and 8, sorry, at the moment, as he makes his way through the high-speed right-hander that is turn 9 along the long back straight before he's hard onto the brakes, coming into the reprofile turn 10, and then it turns into turn 11. It's kind of sort of two corners there. Turn 12 is up next. I personally will always struggle with that turn 10, but that is why I'm commentating, not racing. Pololski then is round the final corner, activates the DRS, only goes up to P16 with a 13.2. Plenty of work for him to do in this race then. Stray Dog Racing is coming to all... Well, I think he... I'm not sure if he... This is his... yeah, now he's on a flying lap attempt. Looking to go again in this session. He was already set a lap time on the medium tyres after he came out far too early. So we'll see what sort of consequences are brought upon him. The full power of the Prospects admins, I'm sure. So Freddie saying that Reggie broke the brake marker board on purpose. So for people with the racing line on, that means absolutely nothing. But guys with the racing line off, that's pretty detrimental. So we were taking a minute's silence, unfortunately. Shane lost one of his friends, and we were taking a minute's silence to honour his life. So Stray Dog Racing then only moves up to P17, then plenty of work for him to do in the qualifying session. Jonesy, it just begins a flying lap. The only driver out on track to do a flying lap at the moment as he goes through turn 1 and now turn 2. Look at the speed he's carrying in the Alfa Romeo before the incredibly long 100, well, it's close to 180 degree It's one of the longest hairpins, I think, on the calendar, as he's purple and 300ths up through the first sector. He's got to find a lot more time if he wants to jump up a few more places, does the Alfa Romeo driver. Into turn 5, another hairpin where overtakes can happen, but it's a tight corner. This corner, turn 7 and 8, very, very difficult to get moves done. Turn 9, you have to have balls of titanium should you want to make a move through here. Turn 10, a little bit higher speed than it ever used to be, making it even more difficult to overtake through there. Close to 2.5 tenths up then for Jonesy. This could, wow, actually only 0.02 between Kai and Kieran, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Jonesy finds a little bit more time through this final sector and jumps up ahead of both of them and up into P6. He finds a lot more time in that final sector, an additional 0.2 of a second, and goes up to net P2. A fantastic lap from Jonesy then, as a lot more drivers start to begin their second flying laps. I presume everybody will be looking to do about 3 flying laps. Timos currently on an outlap at the moment. Matty D just beginning a lap as we head towards the Williams of Shane. His teammate F1 Nerd is about to start a lap, so we will head back on board with Shane, currently in P11. He finished on the podium last time out, had a fantastic race in our pre-season race, our second pre-season race at Imola, but he's going to be pulling into the pit lane this time around, not too happy with that lap. The next driver is going to be Reese. Reese showed some incredible pace. He's just about to start a flying lap. Got to find someone who is actually on a flying lap then. I think that could be, yes it is indeed, we come on board with Patty Pat, who's 300th down, looked a little wide, and is also pulling into the pit lane. I'm not too sure if they've finished laps, or the next driver to come close to the line, well, that's Jonesy just coming into the pits. It's going to be one of the Mercedes. That can only be Oliver, who is now just coming to the line. DRS active for the Mercedes driver, up to P9 only. Kieran pulling into the pit lane just behind him then. And there was the Aston Martin of David Bauer, who's just starting a flying lap. Now we can get on board with Matty D, who's also pulled into the pit lane. One of the Haas cars crossing the line to start a flying lap. I presume Timos has found 1.5 tenths. Unfortunately, he lost a lot of time through that final corner, and he remains where he is at the moment. Williams of F1 Nerd just finishing a flying lap then. He and Shane are P12 and P13 respectively. Not doing too strongly then for the Williams pairing so far. As Reese, he just finished a lap, and wow, is that a lap. 3 tenths up on Reggie and into the provisional pole position slot. A fantastic lap from Reese then. The McLaren of Freddie looks to be crossing the line next. He's 17 thousandths down, but he manages to find 2.5 tenths through that final part of the lap and is up into P2, still 3 tenths behind Reese. The next driver to cross the line, I believe, is going to be David Bauer. He's pulling into the pit lane. Pololski is just about to begin a flying lap. Timos is going to be finished. He's going to be pulling into the pit lane, actually. I think a lot of drivers here are going to be pulling into the pit lane, F1 Nerd included. I'm not sure if anyone's actually on a flyer at the moment. Blyther's on an outlap. So too was Pololski. Looking around elsewhere around the track, Patty Pat on an outlap as well, but Pololski is the one on a flyer at the moment then in the Haas car. Let's see how much he can improve by on this lap. He needs to find 4 tenths to be comfortably ahead of P15 Folksy, and he's found 2 tenths through that first sector alone. Keep this up, he could find a lot of time across this lap. He's just got to pick his braking points perfectly, make sure he gets the power down without making that rear end squirrel too much. As in, we got a little bit of it almost seems like a bit of a Spanish evening we've got here. Plenty of spectators in the crowd. DRS active then for Pololski. Let's see how far he's up through the second sector. It's half a second already, so he has actually further improved on the lap instead of keeping the trend solid. Pololski looking very, very nice here. If he finds a little bit more time I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps ahead of Blyther, possibly even F1 Nerd, should he find enough time through the final sector. Polowski to the line, he does just go ahead of Blyther and doesn't find much more time across the lap. Good lap from Polowski then to put him up into P14. Patty Pat needs a good lap here. He's 2/10 up at the moment. A lot of drivers very, very close to each other on track. This is actually going to put him up into P9 for the Alpine driver. Although he's 500, he's half a tenth down now through the going into that final sector, so he's lost a bit of time. He's got to see if he can rag just any more time out of this Alpine car then through the final 2 corners. Flat out, he's into the pit lane. He wasn't finding any more time. Oh, we've got a lovely little glitch there just to top it all off. So one of the AlphaTauris then will be next to cross the line to begin a flying lap. It is indeed Squid, down in last position, P18 at the moment. He needs a heck of a lap to make his way up the order. AlphaTauri seemingly with Squid simulating what real life events have shown us in the that we've seen this season. Of course, Nick de Vries taking a sacking as a result. He's 3/10 up through the first sector. He's certainly not hanging about at the moment. He's just going to be ahead of Stray Dog Racing, but that's not all he wants. He wants more. He needs more in order to succeed in this qualifying session then. He's got a lot of work to do. We'll see how much he's up by coming through into the second sector through turn 9. Look at how much speed he carries, close to 150 miles per hour through the apex. It's just incredible how all the aerodynamic elements keep him sucked to the floor, keep that car from spinning off into a barrier. He's half a second up then. This could put him ahead of Folksy, unless he can find even more time through the final couple of corners. So, across the with DRS active then. He only goes P15. He does indeed actually jump ahead of Blyther. That's a good lap. Next across line is going to be, I believe, Timos. Although, oh yes, indeed, he backed off of his lap there. Perhaps he had a little bit of spin. So, just behind him is the 2 Red Bulls. Blyther's also backed off his lap. So, looks like Folksy is going to be next across the line. Kieran is in front, but he's just on an outlap at the moment. So Folksy then in the Red Bull, not too sure how much he is up on his lap time at the moment. We'll have to wait and see as he comes round the final 2 corners now. Turn 14, close to flat for Folksy then to the line. He only goes up to P14, a 2.5 improvement. Oliver pulls into the pit lane, a slew of drivers about to start or finish laps here. Kai about to finish a lap. Patty Pat invalidated his out lap then, as David Bauer is just about to begin a flying lap. Very, very close. Perhaps a little bit too close for comfort. Jonesy and Reese just beginning flying laps. I think everybody pretty much, as Matty D's retired. Just looking on track, I can't see if he's crashed out at all. Oh, Reggie's had a crash, I think, in the first sector. See if we can catch what happened there. Squid's also retired from the session. 3 drivers just mysteriously DNFing in the session so far then. Polowski just about to begin a flying lap as the 2 Ferraris, Stray Dog Racing, in front of Timos then. These 2 are about to finish this run then as the checker flag's out. Reese pretty much seems unchallenged at the moment. Oh, what's happened here? Jonesy off, so too is Freddie. I don't know if anyone's going to be challenging for pole here. We just got to look up and down the grid to see if anyone, and that's AlphaTauri without a front wing. I think all manner of chaos has kicked off through the final part of qualifying. Can Kai jump ahead? No one's going to be able to defend themselves. He doesn't find any more time. No front wing for that AlphaTauri. David Bauer to the line. He's 2 seconds down on his lap time. Patty Pat then pulls into the pit lane. Not the greatest qualifying from him. F1 Nerd's half a second down and is not going to improve on his lap time. Polowski's also a tenth down. Jonesy was in the gravel trap, so he's 32 seconds down, so I highly doubt he's going to find 32 seconds unless he turns on the hacks. But I think he's got a bit more integrity than that. So Polowski, I think, is the only one that could possibly... No, he's not. He's 7 seconds down. So that's qualifying then. A lot of drivers did nothing. A lot went off the circuit. Wow. A lot happened towards the end of qualifying. So a lot of people, perhaps a bit of blocking. Okay, wow. Wow, Reese is on pole position then by 0.3 of a second. He was very much unchallenged through the through qualifying after he set that lap. No one was going to get near him, but then Reese takes pole position from Freddie. Reggie in P3, Jonesy P4. The two Alfa Romeos looking very, very good. Ferrari of Timos in P5, Alpine Matty D in P6, Kai in P7. A much better qualifying than our test race in Imola. Kieran P8, Oliver P9, David Bauer up in P10, Patty Pat P11, Shane P12, F1 Nerd in P13. The Williams certainly will have good race pace, as we saw from Shane last time out. Polowski P14, Folksy P15 then, Squid P16, the Red Bull of Blyther P17, and Stray Dog Racing P18, 1.6 seconds off the pace. So we will have to wait and see what happens in the race. Of course, formation lap is turned off as we got heavy rain. This is going to make it very interesting. I highly doubt a lot of drivers will have been doing a lot of rain practice, if I'm being completely honest. It's not something that is very particularly easy in this F1 game. You kind of sort of have to... you have to enter sort of a race to do it, and it's very difficult. But this circuit is also quite a tricky circuit. A lot of different kinds of corners. We've got high-speed chicanes. We've got very fast corners, 13 and 14. High-speed turn 9. Long sweeping corners, turn 3, turn 4. As Squidward leaves the session, he might need a re-invite. Another medium speed chicane in 7 and 8. Some slightly slower speed stuff in turn 10. But it's a tricky track, especially when you need to get the power down as well. People could get a bit greedy. Get a little greedy on the throttle pedal and find themselves spun around and into barriers, which is always not ideal. As then, we've got 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go then for the Spanish Grand Prix. Round 1 is underway. Reese looks like he's got a very good start. The general pack looks like they've kept it nice and clean. Going into turn 1, looks like Reggie might be going for a move down the inside. Oh no, Freddie just missed his braking point completely and has brought Reese off the track as a virtual safety car is deployed. Freddie then in the McLaren completely missing his braking point and sailing wide. That's cost him a front wing and he'll have to box under the virtual safety car only then. Luckily, Reese picked up a penalty, I'm assuming, for corner cutting after he was pretty much pushed all the way wide. Matty D gained a couple of positions but had a collision under the virtual safety car with Jonesy then. Everyone, Patty Pat's actually gained 3 positions, so too has David Bauer. Timos is down 4, Kai is down 3. Not a great start for those two then at the moment. I'll see if I can get Squid that invite, but let me see if I can Right, I don't. We got a virtual safety car. Unfortunately, I would throw Reggie and Freddie swapping positions under the virtual safety car. Let me see if I can. It might be. I don't know if I can invite him. Let me see if I can grab someone else to send him an invite. Just before we go green, then. As indeed we have gone green yet again, and Freddie, with that huge lack of downforce, has no choice but to pull off, as we've got another yellow in sector 3 for him. Kieran is up a lot of positions at the moment, so too is Patty Pat, as Jonesy's into the pit lane as well. I'm not sure if we can get him re-invited into the session, unless someone, as Stray Dog Racing's retired. Freddie pulling into the pits then, as Reese continues to lead by 0.8 of a second then. Reggie perhaps under a little pressure from Matty D, yellow in sector 1. That's just for cars that are in the pit lane. Freddie and Jonesy changing their front wings then, as the Aston Martin leads by close to a second, and Reggie getting all loose coming into turn 5. Matty D is prepared to pounce. He's ready to try and get ahead of the Alfa Romeo in the Alpine car. The battle of the A's, as Timos has made up a few more places then and is back up to P5. He was down a few positions at the start then. Kai also back up a couple of positions as well. He was actually down to P10 at one point. He's back up into P6 at the moment. Look at how close David Bauer and Timos are getting. Aston Martin versus Ferrari. The rain is causing these drivers to be extra cautious on the power, and it's sort of a battle of who can get the power down better, who's got the greater lines, who can make sure they drive their car. It's in the rain, it's less of a test of tyre, where it's more of a contest of your skill and your traction, as Timos is to the inside already on David Bauer and ahead before they reach the corner. Kai thinking about a move. David Bauer, I think there's contact. There's been a bit of contact, I think. I was going to say David Bauer was very close. He spun Timos around, I believe, and that has caused Timos to drop down to P13 then. Oh, that was a horrible incident. It was just so close between the pair of them. Matty D is also now ahead of Reggie in a purple first sector for him. He's doing very nicely, as Patty Pat and Shane get very close together. And look at Oliver in the background all over the rear end of that Williams car then. Oh no, Shane, he's gone wide coming through turn 7. He's all over that sausage curb. Freddie's retired somewhere on, I think he might have retired in the pit lane, and Oliver was also off into the gravel trap then. A lot happening then in this early part of the session. Kai also ahead of David Bauer now. David looking like he went a little deep coming through turn 12. Kai up into P4 then, as the battle further back for these final points positions is really kicking off. Patty Pat's now 0.6 away, and Shane is under huge pressure from the Red Bull of Blyther behind then. Blyther gets nicely within the slipstream of the Williams car, pulls to the inside early on. F1 Nerd on the back, looking to pounce if this battle gets a little spicy and someone runs into the other. Blyther, unfortunately, not quite close enough this time around, but Folksy and Pololski look like they got very close, under 1/10 of each other then. Before they got very, very close on track. Luckily, they did not collide. And unfortunately for us, we haven't quite seen an overtake between those two yet. I'm sure we will see one in the next couple of laps. Reggie is close right up to Matty D. I think Matty might have made a mistake, as Reggie's on the inside of Matty D now. Coming into 7 and 8, Matty D is going to hold the inside line now, as it is a chicane through turn 9. They're wheel to wheel, as Blythe is retired. We'll have a take a look at that as a full safety car then. Blyther retiring from the session. There's debris everywhere. Timos also retiring. F1 Nerd, I think, has had a collision with Timos. There's carbon fibre all over a track. The Ferrari stuck in the gravel trap then, as we do indeed have a safety car. Now I can look to invite Squid to the session. Right. Okay, I cannot invite Squid as Shane's picked up a drive-through for speeding under the safety car. Because I don't have Squid added and he's on PC, I can't get him in. But now we've got a safety car, I can see if Kai can get him back in. Yeah, I do wish but unfortunately I can't add friends during the race. I actually cannot. I'm not sure. No, I can't add friends during the race, but I'll get one of the admins to get on that one as soon as possible. So, well, even more penalties getting pulled out. Shane, of course, with a drive-through. Now Jonesy with a drive-through for speeding under the safety car as well. If you're just joining us, a huge incident just happening then between the Red Bull and the Ferrari of Team Moss and Blyther. F1 Nerd also involved in that incident as well. Bit of chaos, just to spice up the chaotic rain race that we're going to have. Matty D and Reggie were having a brilliant wheel-to-wheel battle before it was rudely interrupted by the safety car. And Patty Pat has dropped some positions actually. He has made a pit stop. That's why I switched to the tyres. I thought he had made a pit stop. Oliver also making a pit stop. I'm not sure that was a particularly good strategy, if I'm being in... I mean, obviously I can't judge the conditions out there and how quickly those... I don't know how quickly those intermediates are wearing down. But 4 laps on Inters to pull into the pit lane, I think is a little bit optimistic. 4 laps isn't going to be the most difference in the world, but we'll just have to wait and see. Squid's finally joined. Okay, perfect. He did get an invite. Yeah, sorry, I would have sent him an invite myself, but I could do it through PlayStation if he was a PlayStation player, but he's now back in the session, so he's actually still in the points with a ghosted car. So I'm sure when he gets behind the wheel of that AlphaTauri, he will soar up the order. I'm sure that's what he's hoping for here. So what's a real shame is the guys with drive-throughs, Jonesy and Shane, as they cannot serve a drive-through penalty under the safety car, which means they'll have to serve it under green flag conditions, so they'll lose the time for driving in the pit lane. It's an unfortunate reality of racing. Of course, it's a bit unfair to serve it under the safety cars. The pit lane is going to be similar speed to the safety car, so it doesn't really make for much of a penalty. Everyone's still on the intermediate tyres, then a few drivers making stops, and the position changes here in the race. Reese has remained out front then. Reggie making 1 position, Matty D and Kai up 3 respectively. David Bauer up 5 positions with Shane up 6. Polowski's moved up 7. So too has Folks, the F1 Nerd, up 4. Squid has moved up 6 positions then, despite not actually being in the car for a lot of the session. Kieran's moved down 3, Patty Pat moved down 1 as safety cars in this lap, with Oliver down 4 and Jonesy down 10. Remember that Patty Pat and Oliver have made pit stops, which is why they have why it seems like they are much further down than they are before. So when does Reese decide to go? Now is his answer. We're going very early then. A few drivers could have been caught out and a couple could be under a bit of pressure. One that looks under a bit of pressure could be Matty D on the back of Kai. He looks like he's got a very nice run on the rear of the Alpine. F1 Nerd though looks like he's got an even better run on the Red Bull. He's already down the inside, but he goes a bit deep coming through the corner. Folks is going to fight it round the outside and get that move done going into turn 2. Kieran and Patty Pat also battling away with Squid. Kieran on the inside of the pair of them going up through turn 3 into turn 4. That's Patty Pat coming steaming round the outside of Kieran. Then Kieran going a bit slow. Oliver off the track in the background, but Patty Pat makes it all the way around the outside of turn 4 and is ahead going into turn 5. A good move from the Alpine driver to get him up into P10. He can now start to hunt after F1 Nerd as well. Kai is right on the back of Matty D off the restart. Then Kai's got those tyres fired up very nicely and will be looking for a move. Who's that wide in the background? Was that? I think that might have been F1 Nerd going slightly wide, coming through turn 9 as they head into the braking zone of turn 10. Nobody looking for a move coming through the corner. It's a lot about exit speed, and look at how much more speed Paddy Pat's got compared to F1 Nerd. He's gaining at a rate of hundreds of knots. I'm sure he'll be passed coming in through into turn 1. Look at the exit speed he's going to have as they come through that final corner now. Paddy Pat is almost having to dodge the Williams of F1 Nerd as Shane pulls into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty. The Williams going to try and jerk to the inside to defend the move of the Alpine. Paddy Pat moves to the outside of the corner but isn't able to get alongside and has to settle for staying behind the Williams for another lap unless he can get past along another part of the lap. He's stuck behind, although Paddy Pat looks like he's got a great run coming through turn 3 into turn 4. He's now on the inside of the Williams and ahead. Paddy Pat really loves that turn 3, turn 4 combo. He's absolutely rapid through there. Got so much grip as it looks like Kieran's just gone a tad wide there. Although that might be the better line as he's gained a little bit of time on F1 Nerd, who is falling slowly back in this session. Further up the field then, Folksy could now be under pressure from Paddy Pat after his pit stop on fresh intermediate tyres. They're certainly making a really nice impact, and Kai is also making an impact on Matty D, who is now 1.3 seconds behind Reggie and squirreling that Alpine all over the place. Kai trying to fly away round the outside through turn 12. We've got the high speed 13 and 14. I think it'd be incredibly compromising to go for a move here, although he's practically pushing that Alpine along. Matty D gets a bit of a slide on the exit. Kai thinks to the inside of 14. That might have compromised him just a little bit more. He's going to activate the overtake. He's going to have no DRS coming down this main straight. He jerks to the inside. He's not quite able to go alongside. He's not quite got the overspeed on Matty D coming into turn 1 and has to settle just behind him. Foxy is overtaken by Paddy Pat then coming into turn 1. Oliver and Kieran also swapping positions. This battle for Pete, the final podium position, is really hotting up now as Kai was so much faster in that third sector, but it looks like Matty D's got that straight line speed to just stay ahead. Kai's really got to focus on that exit, on those exits with the additional downforce he's got if he wants to get ahead of the Alpine driver, who is struggling quite a lot. And this battle's really helping the two leaders at the moment, particularly Reggie, who does not have a 5-second penalty, unlike Reese, who is currently possesses a 5-second penalty and will be dropping back when the checkered flag falls. Matty D also under a bit more pressure from Guy now. They're still getting incredibly close to each other on track. Matty D looks like he's gone wide coming through turn 10 into turn 11. Matty D is still on the inside of Kai, forcing him the long way round. The Mercedes tries to get the traction down the best he can as they headed through into turn 13. Matty D again a little wide. Kai to the inside through 14. Matty D in the Alpine is going to try and hang it around the outside as they now enter the long pit straight. The Mercedes of Kai looks like he's just about got the overspeed, but Matty D with the reduced downforce on his setup is fighting back. They're going to be going wheel to wheel into turn 1 with Kai on the inside and Matty D on the outside. The outside becomes the inside for Matty D, and Kai slips through from his outside, became the inside. He is now through and up into P3. The floodgates have now opened as David Bauer in the Aston Martin is right on the back of the Alpine of Matty D, who's struggling extremely through these wet conditions. Matty D in the Alpine defending for his life is further in the background there. That's Pololski trying to make Paddy Pat go the long way around, but Paddy Pat is having absolutely none of it. Gets the power down nice and early and is ahead of the Haas up into P6 and can now join this train that is looking to all get past Matty D with Kai in front, but now crucially 4 seconds behind the leading pair. Who Reese himself actually has dropped Reggie by 1.4 seconds so far. Matty D's fighting back against Kai here in the race. He's now actually found a little bit of speed. Is now only 2.5-3 tenths back from the Mercedes. It could still hold up again. We do know Matty D's got a bit more straight line speed. Perhaps he was using a bit more. He couldn't have been using much more ERS, but his fuel lights come on. So he's got to be fuel saving at some point. We did have that safety car. Although, look at this, Matty D on the outside of Kai. That outside now becomes the inside. I don't quite think he's had the traction coming out of the corner. Doesn't quite have the downforce or the grip to do so. And Kai can keep his position. David Bauer is a bit of an Alpine sandwich. As to the inside goes Patty Pat. He's looking to become the filling rather than the bottom. In fact, he's going to try and become the top of the sandwich. Patty Pat up into P4. Great move as Matty D's forced David Bauer a little bit wide here. This could open the floodgates to Pololski behind the Haas driver. Sensing blood from the Aston Martin in front. It's now no longer an Alpine sandwich. The Alpine sit P4 and P5. Wow. Good move by Patty Pat. That's fantastic driving from him. He's really coming alive in these wet conditions. And look how close he's getting to Kai. They actually almost ran into each other there. The Alpine is just on an absolute charge in this race. He's really moving forward very nicely. Those fresh tyres, I take it back. Those fresh tyres have really come into their own. Never doubt the man on the racetrack. Although he's fallen about 8 tenths behind Kai. He did almost go into the back of him. But he's catching back up with him again. Pololski could actually be trying to pressure David Bauer, who himself is trying to pressure Matty D in front. They all remain in situ for the time being. I think there was a position change between Oliver and Pololski for P8 and P9 respectively. Further back on the field, Kieran holds that P10 position at the moment. But David Bauer and Pololski battling away now. David Bauer to the inside, forcing Pololski the long way round through turn 4. And it is a very long way round on the outside line. And now look at Oliver thinking about a move on Pololski. He's going to try and hang it around the outside of turn 5, but isn't quite able to do so. Pololski, I don't think he got the best traction on the inside. He went very narrow on the exit of turn 5. That allows Oliver through into turn 7. He gets that move done and is now up into P7. Folksy right on the back of this train, so too is Kieran. Everyone's sort of running onto the back of this battle with Patty Pat and Kai leading the way. In fact, Patty Pat and Kai currently have the best pace at the moment, with Matty D dropping and still holding the rest of the field up as they're all fighting and squabbling away through the long corners in the final sector. Then looks like Folksy is now ahead of Pololski, who seems to be dropping a little further back in this race. Oliver right on the rear end of David Bauer in the Aston Martin, who himself is desperate to get ahead of Matty D in front, who seems to be still struggling on those tyres. It's actually close to 4 seconds the gap. David Bauer now, where is he? He's on the inside, and Oliver almost thinks about trying to make a double overtake. That outside he's going to still try and hang it around the outside, and he does get that move done on Matty D, the Alpine, perhaps now a little bit vulnerable to the Mercedes behind. What Kai managed to do a few laps earlier. Oh, he thinks about it, does Oliver, but he's not quite alongside. But Matty D's gone slightly wide. There's contact. I think someone had a bit of an oversteer moment. There's contact between Matty D and Oliver. Matty D in the Alpine is sent spinning to outside of the points positions at the moment. He's got a lot of work to do, as F1 Nerd is now back up into the points. Now Oliver desperate to try and get back ahead and claim what he believes is his rightful position. He's now right on the back of Pololski. He's back up into P7 after those two had a coming together then. Oh, that's so unfortunate. It looked like, I think Oliver got a bit of oversteer and then corrected the slide right into the side of Matty D. That's what it looked like from my perspective. I could, of course, be wrong. But then the Haas of Pololski under pressure from Oliver, who has got a lot more grip coming through turn 11 and 12. The Mercedes deciding to sit back through 13 and 14 there and try and get a good run coming onto the main pit straight. Oliver in the Mercedes then is going to try and get a good run. They're glitching and lagging all over the place. As I look at this, Patty Pat and Kai. Patty Pat's actually sailed up into P3. He's got some brilliant wet weather running pace here and is actually ahead of the Mercedes of Kai. Further back, I think that battle's pretty much they've remained the same, have Polowski and Oliver then, and the Mercedes unable to get past the Haas, who's going to hold on for yet another lap in this race. So now Patty Pat can actually set off after Reggie and Reese. He's got a heck of a task to do, gaining 4 seconds across the lap. Oh, it looks like Kai's gone right over the sausage curves there. He's going to have lost a lot of time. Oliver, in the course of that, has actually just got ahead of the Haas of Polowski then. I'm assuming that might have been on the exit of turn 5. He's just got better traction. Polowski struggling for a bit of grip here as he might be falling into the clutches of Kieran in the AlphaTauri behind, who is doing a good job up there in P9 at the moment. So these 3 cars are battling away at the moment. Folksy is hovering within the 1 second of David Bauer. Their battle has sort of neutralised a little bit, and now since Patty Pat has got past Kai, he can accelerate away into the distance if he can. Although it looks like he's lost a lot of time to Kai. He lost a bit more time to Kai across the lap as he's now, and to the leaders crucially though. It's 5.4 seconds to Reggie at the moment, as I think Matty D pulls into the pit lane, picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding. Perhaps he's got a bit of floor damage. No, he's just changing his tyres. Of course, they don't have to come into the pits to retire, but Matty D decides the fresh rubber is for him. Bolts on those fresh intermediate tyres. It's clearly going to stay intermediate conditions across the race. Oh, look at Reese and Reggie. They've got very, very close together at the moment, and this is looking for the lead of the race on track. Of course, Reggie, without that 5-second penalty, will be looking for a comfortable win if he can just stay. As look how wide Reese goes through turn 10 and 11. Just trying to get the traction down. The difference of the lines there is just incredible at how similar their speed can be despite the difference in lines. Kai's actually got back past Patty Pat across the lap. We didn't quite see that one happen, but Patty is back down there in P4 then, as Reggie gets onto the slipstream of Reese and thinks about a move. Reese's strategy seems to have opened then for a pit stop, as Reggie does go for a move down the inside. Is he quite alongside? But as that inside now becomes the outside, the Alfa Romeo is going to hang it round. He's now on the inside coming through turn 3. Reggie is leading this race at the moment then, as Reese is going to try and fight back into turn 4. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite have the grip to do so. And we've got a new overall race leader then. Reggie leads. Of course, Reese with that 5-second penalty is now a further 5 seconds behind and could be falling into the clutches of Kai. I think Patty Pat's tyres seem to be going off a little bit more here, as he's now dropped 1.3 seconds behind the Alpine driver. The next closest battle on track after the Reggie and Reese fight is David Bauer and Folksy. They're very, very close to... Well, I say they're very close. They're 0.6 of a second apart. Very similar to the gap that it is for the lead of the race at the moment. So, Reese, he needs to be careful here. He's got to actually put the hammer down here compared to Kai. Otherwise, Kai is going to jump up into P2. And if Patty Pat regains the speed that he's just lost so much speed. He's now 3 seconds down. Squid and Jonesy have just switched positions then. Patty Pat's into the pit lane. His tyres are going off extremely early. He might have also picked up some underbody damage, perhaps running under a curb. We're not overly sure, but he's going to be trying to take those tyres perhaps to the end of the race. It's quite bold. If he dares. Certainly the guys out front will be taking those tyres to the end of the race. That's a proven fact. Matty D's actually fallen after his spin. He's fallen quite a way behind Matty Pat. Well, actually, it's not too bad. Although Polowski just exiting the pit lane now. Matty D with the warmer tyres. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, and Polowski just goes off the track. The Haas driver, unfortunately, coming out the pit lane at the wrong time. Matty D makes it was a tiny bit of contact. It was enough though. So for some reason, Patty Pat's tyres seem to be going off around lap 11. He pitted early on for some fresh rubber, and that allowed him to make some fantastic progress in the race. But then his tyres just seemed to burn out. He used the tread on those tyres very, very early on. But now with his fresh tyres, he can start attacking other drivers in front. So Reese and Kai then pull into the pits to serve, hopefully their one and only pit stop of this race. Whereas Reggie, out in front, decides to go a lap longer. The undercut is quite powerful here around Spain, as you gain a lot more time from the faster tyres, as Folksy is right on the back of David Bauer, and Folksy himself was actually under a bit of pressure from Oliver behind the Mercedes, who did the same strategy as Patty Pat for the first time. He got a huge slide actually coming through turn 3. He's going to have lost a lot of time there. Yeah, indeed, he's actually outside of. He's over a second away, as Jonesy is right under pressure from Patty Pat in the area of the circuit where he's fastest. The Alpine pulls to the inside and is going to force Jonesy wide. But Patty Pat, with the superior grip, easily makes the move done. Makes Jonesy look like he's in a lower class of racing. Just the speed he made that overtake at. The Alpine really working well on the fresher tyres. But Patty's got to take these ones to the end of the race, really. Kai's actually... Reese had served his 5-second penalty, hadn't he? So now Kai jumps ahead of Reese in the Aston Martin. It's time to see whether Kai can keep this Aston Martin behind him for long. Reese now penalty free in the session and can now attack. David Bauer into the pit lane. Folksy decides to stay out a lap longer as Reggie is now pitted. I would expect to see perhaps even Kai. It was a 5-second gap though, so I don't think he would have closed that much time on Reggie. No, he wouldn't have, but that gap is down. It was about 5 seconds. It's now 3.4, so Reggie was lucky to have the buffer. What's happening here? A couple of drivers also into the pit lane now. Matty D promoted up into P10 after he had a big spin. A lot of drivers moving all over the track as Team Moss has unfortunately left the session. F1 Nerd making up a couple of positions as Jonesy and Squidward pit as well. Shane, after serving his drive through and then pulling into the pit lane, is quite a way off the rest of the field. He could do with a safety car at the moment. Oliver's had another moment actually. Oh no, he's just come out of the pit lane, so that is why he is has just been overtaken by Polowski. But Polowski has got to try and fend off this Mercedes, who is a hard charging driver on fresh tyres. He's proven he's fast across the along the course of this race, but now he's got to prove it. Kieran and Reggie going wheel to wheel. Kieran yet to stop in this race. Finally does. Well, I think he stopped early on. He's now into the pit lane, and Reggie does resume control of the race. Folksy finally pitting in this race. And now Kai takes P2, just 3.5 tenths ahead of Reese, but 2.3 seconds ahead of Reggie. Perhaps Reggie just struggling to get those tyres into the window as Kieran's falling down. Kieran's actually changing his front wing. He must have picked up a bit of damage for some contact. Oliver and Polowski going wheel to wheel. Well, it wasn't wheel to wheel for long, as Oliver soars into the distance ahead of the Haas driver and up into P6 in this session then. He's got Polowski close behind. He's got to watch out for those. Reggie's picked up a penalty. I believe that's for track limits. No, it's a 5-second penalty, so he must have sped in the pit lane. So what happened to Reese has now happened to Reggie. I didn't quite catch that penalty. But now Kai is in the position to win this race. Unless Reese has anything to say about it and overtakes. So this is pretty much for the net race lead at the moment between Kai and Reese. Their little squabble. Patty Pat could be gaining in a bit. I think that's Matty D who's had a spin. Yes, it is Matty D through 7 and 8. Has unfortunately spun around and has fallen outside of the points. He's had a very tricky race, a couple of collisions, one with Pololski and one with the Mercedes of Oliver. It's not been an ideal race for Matty D, I'll be completely honest. And neither has it been for Shane. Although Shane is only 5 seconds off this battle here. He's got to gain a lot of time to get into the points. But if we do have a safety car, I wouldn't count Shane out on some points here. He is very, very fast. He has shown he's very, very fast, and he can definitely do it. But Reggie leads by 2.5 seconds, and Kai has pulled out that gap to Reese then. Both on very much equal ERS. So Kai doing the business then. He wants to win this race and is going to be using all those tyres to their maximum potential. He knows he's just got to stay within 5 seconds of Reggie in order to do so. He's doing a very good job at doing that at the moment. Patty Pat is now 4 seconds. He's 4 seconds off this leading group, but on a lot lower ERS. It looks like he's going to be coming in here for a comfortable P4 finish, unless he can find the insane speed he had in that first stint, which allowed him to jump up. I think it was actually up into P2 at one point for the Alpine driver. He's doing very well at the moment, though, as that gap with Kai and Reese continues to grow just that little bit more. If I'm not mistaken, did these three... No, these three weren't. Kai was on the podium and Reese was the winner, I believe, in Imola in pre-season. So, Shane, cheeky safety car to the front of the field, and we could replicate the same podium as we had in pre-season. David Bauer now is still under a bit of pressure from Oliver. They're now on equal age of tyres as what's happened here. Matty D pulled into the pit lane. Perhaps he's going to bolt on a fresh set of tyres. Note he decides to retire in the session. There's either a fresh set of tyres or a retire. Matty D decides that the beautiful Alpine. That blue is just incredible. That chrome electric blue is beautiful. I could really do with that. That'd be a nice livery on my car. I'd be proud to have that. But Matty D unfortunately retires in the session then. And, well, that gap is now extended to 3.5 seconds between Kai and Reggie. This is sort of the margin that they're going to be fighting for, is 5 seconds. Speeding in the pit lane. I believe it's speeding in the pit lane anyway. As Kieran's just left the session. Just going to check with Reggie. Yeah, we're speeding in the pit lane, so we can't remove that. We've got a yellow flag in sector 1. That is just for Matty D. Fatty Pat, he's dropped a bit more time to the guys out front. It was 4 seconds, now it's 3 seconds. He's just struggling, unfortunately, a little bit more in the race at the moment, but he's doing well up in P4. He's made up some nice positions in this race. Oliver is right on the back of David Bauer still. Those two have been fighting it out all race long, and I'm sure David Bauer will be happy to see that Mercedes disappear from his rearview mirrors once the checkered flag falls in about 10 laps time, but he's still got to put up with 10 laps as Reggie now critically picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. That puts him on 8 seconds of penalties overall. It's looking even Patty Pat, if he gets a bit of a move on here, he finds a bit more speed in that Alpine car, he could see himself onto the podium here. But he's got to gain a lot of time. He's got to gain about 5 seconds. Not quite that much time, but he's got to gain a lot. Should he want to. Alright, I need to try and get Kieran back into the lobby. The race is sort of quieting down a bit, so I'll see if I can get him back in. I don't have him added, so I wouldn't be able to. So I wouldn't be able to because I don't have him added, unfortunately. So he would unfortunately remain kicked. I hate to say it. But then, if it was a safety car, if someone could cause a safety car, I can get Kieran back in. But unfortunately, not at the moment. So, David Bauer, that gap between Oliver is a little bit closer at the moment. And they're getting much closer on the track, and Oliver, he's gone a little wide there through turn 12, and that has lengthened the gap to around 6.5 tenths at the moment. Then he's just making those tiny mistakes that are costing him all the time in the chances. They're costing him all the little chances. Rain is getting worse. We could see a late wet weather tyre drama. Perhaps Matty D had the right idea of pitting onto the wets that early on. It's a shame it was a few laps too early. Reggie then is extending his gap at the front. He's got to gain about 2.3 seconds still. 2.4 seconds now, should he want to be ahead of Kai come the checkered flag. Kai is currently comfortably leading away, as now Oliver's got back close to David Bauer in that Aston Martin now. The Mercedes car against the Aston Martin power. Well, I would both Mercedes powered cars, one a factory car, one an Aston Martin. Who's going to take this position? Oliver's been desperate to gain this P5 all race long. Now's his chance, really. He's gone wide again. That line is not working for him through turn 12. And it's cost him again. He's now this time half a second away. Steam, unfortunately, isn't working. Patty Pat is into the pits. Is he going to put on the wet tyres? Yes, he is. Patty Pat taking a gamble here. This could be a stroke of genius from the Alpine driver. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Few squid. Yeah, I can only apologise. I do wish I could have helped a little bit more. But, hey, we can't have infinite safety cars, I suppose. Patty Pat then moves up into P8. Moves down into P8, although he was all over the runoff area, coming out of the pit lane, struggling for grip. Could this be a tad early for the Alpine driver? Yeah, indeed. There's always a next race. We've got 12 rounds, so you got plenty of time to make your mark and prove that this race was a super unlucky one for you. So now we've got to keep an eye on what the leaders are doing. Reggie looks like he could pull out an 8-second gap actually on Kai here. He's really comfortably pulling out that margin. If I was Shane, I would gamble for wet tyres right now. Yeah, see, Polowski is getting gained on. As Patty Pat's actually gained about 7 tenths, and his tyres wouldn't be completely up to temperature. If I'm Shane, I'm boxing for some wet tyres as soon as I get close, as he's got nothing else to lose really, and he's got everything to gain. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. So come on, Shane, get us in the pits and get on the podium. We would absolutely love to see it. As now F1 Nerd is into the pit lane for some wet tyres. He's picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding. Anyone who is... Oh, look at how much that gap is closing between Patty Pat. It's... is it worth pitting for the leaders? We'll have to see. Patty won't be setting fastest laps, but if the conditions get too bad... Yeah, Shane in. That's a smart move for Shane. As I think it is just going to get worse, and we are going to be on... And everyone's going to have to box for full wets. So he's going to take full advantage of it then. It's a good move by Shane, and that gap is 5.5 seconds. It's very, very close. You guys are just joining us. Reggie has 8 seconds worth of time penalties, which is why he is currently not in content. He's not quite going to win. That gap's around 0.6 of a second in real world times. At the moment, Kai's just got to give it his absolute all. Kai's got a bit more ERS to play with than Reggie, and Jonesy, that is Kieran's AI. Unfortunately, both the AlphaTauris disconnected and were unable to rejoin the session. Jonesy making the most of that and is up. Patty Pat has gained close to 5. He's going like 6 seconds through the last couple of laps. It's not. I don't think it's going to quite be enough to challenge for the lead, but it might be enough to get him back up to where he was. I mean, it certainly should be enough to get him back to where he was, perhaps even ahead of David Bauer. Well, he was up in P4, so and that gap actually between David Bauer and Oliver has opened up yet again. So there's that battle pretty much gone. Patty Pat now really gaining on the back of Pololski then, as the Haas driver on the intermediates in full wet conditions, struggling for grip, and look at how much more speed Patty Pat's got. Those wet tyres clearing so much more water off the track than the intermediates could even fathom. Patty Pat then right in the slipstream, streams to the outside coming into turn 10. Pololski's going to defend on the inside, but look at how much more grip Patty Pat's got. He's going to try and hang it around the outside through turn 11. That now becomes the inside for turn 12. Poor Pololski on the outside has no defence compared to the wet runner of Patty Pat, who does move himself up into P7 and now has to get close 10 seconds to the next driver, Folksy, ahead. This could be a strategic masterclass from Patty Pat, should he get this one right. Although Pololski's fighting back at him then. Patty Pat moves to the inside aggressively to defend. Pololski unfortunately goes a little deep, and Patty Pat soars ahead and can now start gaining on Folksy in front. Of course, it's a shame as we can't actually see precisely, without taking our eye off the leaderboards, without taking our eye off here, exactly how much faster they're going. But I can tell you, Patty Pat is on the charge yet again. He's picked up some wet compound tyres and is now moving up the order. Oliver is desperate to claim the P4. He has been trying to get all race pretty much. Although Folksy is actually coming back at them. I think he's a little closer than he's been before. He's a tad closer than he was before, and could perhaps spoil Oliver's party and certainly David Bauer's party if he loses a couple of positions and drops down into P6. Overall in this race, the biggest gainer has actually been Folksy, up 9 positions so far. He's done a very nice job in that Red Bull racing car. Red Bull actually going to be bringing some new upgrades to in real life Formula 1. I really hope it's not a zero side pod design, otherwise I might just cry. As we look at that penalty gap, it's very close to breaching 8 seconds. It has 8 thousandths, although it's coming back down. It's going to be right to the wire between these two. I think Reggie's now got that to 1.5 tenths clear. He might have just done enough then to clear Kai. It's now 8.3 seconds and possibly take the win here, despite the 8 seconds of penalties he is currently on. David Bauer doing a phenomenal defensive masterclass here against Oliver. I don't quite think Patty Pat's actually going to get... He's not been gaining as much time as I would have thought on Folksy or Pololski then. So he's probably going to remain down here in P7. So boxing might not have been the best choice for him as David Bauer. Oh, that's Reese getting all out of shape. Not David Bauer. He's 17 seconds further back. There was a steam maintenance period. As look at how close Oliver is to the back of David Bauer at the moment then. The Mercedes driver getting so close he actually loses about 0.3 of a second through that final corner of turn 14. Now in the slipstream, can David Bauer defend against Oliver as Polowski takes a 3-second time penalty? Oliver almost jinks to the inside for a late lunge, but thinks better of it. Yeah, that's so unfortunate, Kieran, that the Steam update just came at completely the wrong time. Oliver is going to try and get some better traction in that Mercedes, as Polowski's actually ahead of Patty Pat. Polowski's gone wide though. He's going to have to take to the runoff through turn 1 and turn 2. That's going to allow Patty Pat back through. But now Patty's really struggling on those wet tyres. He's got a great pace, but he's not had the greatest of tyre wears in this session. Polowski slots back into P8. Of course, he does have that 3-second penalty. So Patty Pat's got a tiny bit of a buffer here. And that gap out front is widened to 8.7. It's looking good for Reggie at the moment. He's just got to keep it within the confines of track limits, whilst also pushing as hard as he dares in that car. He's got to be careful, as if he gets another penalty, he's only got a lap to go, so he's going to really struggle. David Bauer and Oliver have been saving ERS. Kai, he's actually used a bit more of his energy to try and gain, but Reggie's got a bit in reserve. David Bauer seems to have pulled out that gap to Oliver in front as they do begin their lap 32 in this race. Then nobody particularly close on the track. Oliver now gaining again back on David Bauer. These two have been literally within a second of each other 90% of the race, and it's Oliver just hasn't been able to get past. He's been trying everything in the book, putting down all the power he can, but in the wet conditions there's only so much power you can put down. Of course, after his earlier incident with Matty D, it's been a real struggle to find the time yet again and get back back into the position he was in, although I actually think he's back to the place where he was by the time we did get going then, as I believe Reggie has started his final tour of the the Catalunya circuit for the final lap. Patty Pat is under a bit of pressure from Polowski here. The wet tyre gamble did not work out. It didn't quite rain enough for the guys that put on the wet tyres. That's F1 Nerd, Shane and Patty Pat. Kieran's AI looks like it might actually score some points here, unless F1 Nerd's got anything to say about it. But at the moment, Reggie is currently at turn 5. If Oliver's going to think about making a move, it's now. Despite the fact he's had 33 laps, he's had most of his laps in this race behind David Bauer, who has been doing a brilliant job defending and making sure he can retain P4 in this race. Oliver, he's getting close. He's getting too close for his liking, as of course the AI of Kieran is passed by F1 Nerd, and he moves up into the points, so he's got a pull 2-second gap with the time penalties applied at the end. So then, Reggie rounds the final 2 corners. He's pretty much, after the early stages, the Alfa Romeo has absolutely dominated with his penalty. Even with 8 seconds of penalties, he's conquered the track today. Kai will come round to finish in P2. Reese will finish in P3, gets a big power slide over the line. Oliver's unable to do anything, as Polowski and Patty Pat, although Polowski got ahead on track, he unfortunately will fall back due to penalties then. David Bauer and Oliver, they've been at it all race long, but David Bauer will fortunately retain his P4 from Oliver. Folksy will finish up in P6, should I add, as Patty Pat's actually had a spin. Oh no, it's disaster for Patty Pat on the final lap here. He must have had a spin, and that demotes him down into P8, unfortunately for him. Oh, that's so unlucky for Patty Pat. His wet tyre gamble didn't come off, and then after all of that, he unfortunately doesn't make it work. Kieran, your AI might not quite be too washed, as I think he's actually going to score a point here. Did it count as a DNF? Yeah, it counts as a DNF because he wasn't in the session. Unlucky there, as F1 Nerd picks up the final point. Wow, what a race. We're going to get the podium finishes in here for an interview then. Right, we're going to see if we can grab Kai. Bear with me. There's Reese. Hopefully Kai will join us. I'm not sure why. So Reese and Reggie currently have their mics out in mics in mute at the moment. Oh, there we go. Reggie, congratulations on that win. Despite the fact you had 8 seconds of penalty, you still managed to take the victory here today. How are the conditions out there all race? It seemed the rain got a little bit heavier towards the end. Indeed, and Kai back on the podium again after the podium in pre-season in Imola. A P2 here today. A fantastic job and a fantastic drive yet again. Had some quite intense battles across the track there. How was it fighting there in the rain?
Yeah, it was alright. It was fun, to be fair. I thought I was on for the dub, but I don't know what Reggie was doing in that middle sector, but he was absolutely killing me. So other than that, to be fair, I was shocked. I thought I was going to just get P3 and it was going to be them two battling it out, but I managed to jump Reese in the pit stops and just managed to somehow keep him behind. So we'll take the P2.
Yeah, and fantastic job on Reese taking the pole position, but unfortunately unable to convert in the race. What unfortunately happened in that race? Were the tyres just overheating just a little bit?
Yeah, it was quite a frustrating race. The tyres were overheating. Had that incident, turn one, lap one, which hampered my race. I felt like I could have been fighting with Reggie if it weren't for that 5-second penalty. But it is what it is, and we move on to the next one.
Yeah, made the best of a unfortunate situation there, taking the podium. So a big thank you to all of our, and a big congratulations to all the podium finishers today. So thank you for giving an interview after the session, and a big thank you to all the viewers who stuck around to watch the long wet race we had here today. So thank you for everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next week for round 2 here in Tier 2. Good night. Have a great rest of your week.
Cheers, comms, mate.